Okay, so this time you guys have really brought us some interesting stuff. Excerpts from a podcast called Are You Truly Alive or Just Existing? Osho's take on waking up to life.
Yeah, and it really kind of cuts to the chase, doesn't it? It asks a big question right up front.
It does. And I think after going through this material, that's what we're going to be exploring here today in this deep dive about what does it actually mean to be alive versus just sort of going through the motions. And we'll be using your sources, of course, as a guide.
That's right. We'll be drawing on those ideas and hopefully offering a bit of a shortcut to understanding some of these really profound questions.
Absolutely. And, when you really think about it, the question that comes up and the question I want to put to you listening right now is, are you truly alive or are you simply existing maybe without even realizing it?
It's a thought-provoking question, isn't it? And the source material kind of kicks things off by talking about what it called the illusion of life, which is this idea that just because your heart is beating and you're going about your day doesn't mean you're genuinely experiencing life.
Right. And they paint a pretty familiar picture, don't they? You're born, you go to school, you get a job, maybe you have a family, and then eventually, well, the curtain closes. But the podcast makes this point that for a lot of people, that whole process might just be about following a predetermined script, kind of checking off these expected milestones instead of really being present and engaged in each moment.
It's interesting how they talk about the power of routines and habits, how easy it is to get swept up in these patterns of rules and expectations and just move from one thing to the next without ever really stopping to experience what we're doing. It's almost like we're on autopilot.
Yeah. Like when you drive somewhere and you get there, you can't even remember the drive.
Exactly. Or walking, right?
Yeah, totally. And the podcast uses this image of sleepwalking, which I think is a great analogy. You're physically moving, you're functioning in the world, but are you truly awake? Are you aware of what's happening around you and even within you?
It really makes you wonder, and they even go so far as to ask, are many people essentially zombies in disguise?
Ooh, that's a bit creepy, isn't it?
It is a bit jarring, I suppose, but it gets the point across, doesn't it? It highlights this idea of living a life that's devoid of real awareness and conscious participation.
It does. And what they say is that recognizing if you've been in this state of, well, let's call it less than fully aliveness, that's actually the first step towards actually living, because you can't change something if you're not even aware of it, right?
Absolutely. And taking that a step further, the podcast explores this potentially uncomfortable idea,
Mm.
the trap of waiting to die.
Okay, that sounds intense.
Well, what they're suggesting is that a lot of people aren't actually living their lives. They're just kind of in this perpetual holding pattern, waiting for some future point when things will finally be right.
It's like the classic, I'll be happy when syndrome. I'll be happy when I get that promotion or when I meet the right person or when I can finally retire and relax. It's like we're always postponing our own happiness for some imagined future.
Yeah, and if you think about it psychologically, we often get stuck in this cycle. We achieve one goal, and then almost immediately we've set our sights on the next one. It's this constant future-oriented mindset that keeps us from fully experiencing the present moment.
Like we're on a treadmill that never stops.
Exactly.
And what's the point of that? Because the truth is, real life, with all its messy beauty, is happening right now, not in some hypothetical future where everything is perfect.
Which brings up a really important question for you, the listener. Are you living in the now? Are you actively engaged in your life as it's unfolding? Or are you caught up in this trap of waiting for some future moment to really start living? It's worth taking a moment to honestly reflect on that.
Definitely. But it's not all doom and gloom. The conversation in the podcast then shifts to a more positive angle, which is defining what it actually means to be truly alive.
Right. And one of the key things they emphasize is this idea of presence, really being in the moment, fully experiencing whatever is happening without all those filters of fear and expectations and constantly pushing happiness into the future.
It's about embracing your emotions too, they say. Laughing fully when you're joyful, letting yourself cry when you're sad, loving with your whole heart. Just this raw, unfiltered connection to the full spectrum of life.
And they talk about the importance of direct experience, less mediated by screens and external opinions, less bombarded by the constant flow of information in our modern world. It's about connecting with the raw, immediate reality of what's happening around you and within you.
And that's where spontaneity comes in, breaking out of those routines, doing something unexpected, feeling that spark of connection to life, instead of just going through the motions on autopilot.
And the podcast makes this interesting counterpoint to a lot of the messages we get from society. We're often told to focus on responsibility, practicality, achievement. But they share Osho's perspective, which is that sometimes the most profound thing you can do is simply be. Not do, but just be present in the moment.
That's a powerful shift, isn't it? From this constant doing, always striving, always trying to accomplish something, to simply being present in the here and now. It sounds so simple, but it really represents a fundamental change in perspective.
Totally. So if you're listening and thinking, man, this just existing thing is hitting a little too close to home, the source actually offers some hope and a way forward.
They do. And it starts with that moment of recognition, that realization that you've maybe been living a bit on the sleepy side, so to speak. That's the beginning of waking up awareness is the first step.
Exactly. And the next step isn't about some huge life overhaul. It's much more immediate. The podcast encourages you to stop waiting and do something today, something that makes you feel alive.
I love that. And they give some great examples like dancing like nobody's watching, even if they are getting out and exploring a new place, connecting deeply with someone or something you care about, creating something, taking a risk, just injecting some vitality into your day.
It all boils down to the urgency of now. The source really hammers this point home. Don't put life on hold. You don't earn aliveness in the future. It's something you cultivate and experience in the present moment.
Yeah, and they leave us with this thought-provoking idea. If you can't find a sense of contentment or joy or excitement now in this moment, it's unlikely to magically appear later because that later we often dream about it rarely ever actually arrives the way we imagine it will.
So just to recap our little deep dive here, we've explored the difference between merely existing and truly living, the sneaky trap of waiting for the right time, the importance of being present and aware, the role of spontaneity in bringing back that zest for life, and the power of shifting from a life of constant doing to one that's more grounded in simply being.
And all of that brings us back to the big question we started with. Are you truly alive? Are you actively participating in your life as it unfolds right now? Or are you, maybe without even realizing it, just existing?
And as you ponder that, maybe consider this. What's one thing you could do today, big or small, that would shift you even just a little bit from existing to feeling truly alive? Because ultimately, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.